The conference room at Blackwood Industries headquarters was packed with board members, senior management, and shareholders for what Uncle Gerald had called an emergency meeting to save the company. I sat in the back corner, laptop open, responding to emails while the drama unfolded around me. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice." Uncle Gerald stood at the head of the table, his silver hair and expensive suit projecting authority he'd spent 30 years cultivating. "We're here to discuss the future direction of Blackwood Industries and to vote on critical measures that will ensure the company's survival." I glanced up briefly, then returned to my screen. My cousin's wedding invitation needed a response, and I was trying to figure out dates. "As most of you know," Uncle Gerald continued, "Blackwood Industries has been family-owned for 60 years. My father, David Blackwood, built this company from nothing. When he passed away 8 years ago, he distributed shares among family members. Today I hold 31% of the company. My sister Patricia holds 18%. My brother Martin holds 22%. Combined with shares held by cousins and extended family, we represent the true legacy of this company." The room murmured agreement. Uncle Gerald had always been good at rallying people. "However," he said, his voice darkening, "we face an existential crisis. The manufacturing sector is changing. Our traditional products are becoming obsolete. We need to pivot, quickly and decisively, into new markets. Specifically, I'm proposing we sell our manufacturing division and use the capital to acquire tech companies. This will require taking on substantial debt, but the growth potential is enormous." My phone buzzed. A text from my investment advisor. "The Blackwood vote is today, right? Do you need me there?" I typed back, watching it unfold. "Might not even need to participate. The motion before us today," Uncle Gerald announced, "is to authorize management, specifically me as acting CEO, to execute the following: sell the manufacturing division for $340 million, acquire a 60% stake in Tech Venture Solutions for $280 million, and take on $150 million in bridge financing to fund operations during the transition." Patricia, my aunt, raised her hand. "Gerald, this seems risky. The manufacturing division is profitable. Why sell it?" "Because profitable doesn't mean sustainable," Uncle Gerald said smoothly. "Manufacturing margins are shrinking. Labor costs are rising. Foreign competition is intensifying. We need to evolve or die, Patricia. This is evolution." "What about the employees?" asked Martin, my other uncle. "The manufacturing division has 347 people. What happens to them?" "Tech Venture Solutions will absorb about 40 in various roles," Uncle Gerald said. "The rest will unfortunately need to be let go. It's not ideal, but it's necessary for the company's survival." I stopped typing and actually paid attention now. "You're firing 300 people," I said quietly from my corner. Uncle Gerald turned, seeming to notice me for the first time. "Ah, Ryan. Glad you could join us. I know these board meetings aren't usually your thing." "I'm here," I said simply. "Ryan owns a small percentage of shares," Uncle Gerald explained to the room, his tone just condescending enough to be noticeable. "A token amount his grandfather left him. He's technically a shareholder, so he's entitled to attend." "How much do I own?" I asked. "I believe it's 3%, Uncle Gerald said dismissively. "Maybe 4%. Enough to make you feel included, but not enough to matter in real decisions." "And the motion passes with majority vote?" I confirmed. "Correct," Uncle Gerald said. "We need 51% to approve. I have 31%, Patricia has 18%, Martin has 22%. That's 71% right there. Your small vote won't matter, Ryan. The real shareholders will decide this." "The real shareholders," I repeated. "Family members who've been involved in the business for decades," Uncle Gerald clarified. "People who understand how companies actually work. No offense, Ryan, but you're 33 years old and you spend most of your time traveling and working on your laptop. You don't exactly have the experience to weigh in on corporate strategy." I nodded and returned to my laptop, pulling up a specific file. "Let's proceed with the vote," Uncle Gerald said. "All in favor of authorizing management to execute the proposed restructuring, selling manufacturing, acquiring Tech Venture Solutions, and securing bridge financing, say aye." "Aye," Patricia said, though she sounded uncertain. "Aye," Martin said more firmly. Several cousins and extended family members added their support. Uncle Gerald was beaming. Motion carries with 74% approval, he announced. Ryan, I assume you're abstaining given your lack of involvement in the company. Actually, I said, still looking at my laptop screen, I'm voting no. Noted, Uncle Gerald said with a patronizing smile. Your 3% opposition is recorded. The motion still passes overwhelmingly. About that, I said, finally closing my laptop and giving the room my full attention. I don't own 3% of Blackwood Industries. 4% then, Uncle Gerald waved dismissively. Either way, it's inconsequential. I own 91%, I said clearly. The room went silent. That's absurd, Uncle Gerald said. Ryan, I know you're not involved in the business, but that's not how share distribution works. The shares were divided among family members when your grandfather died. There is no way you own 91%. Grandpa David distributed 9% among family members, I said calmly. That 9% is what you, Patricia, Martin, and the cousins have been voting with. The other 91% went into a trust, the Blackwood Family Trust, with me as the sole trustee and beneficiary. That's impossible, Patricia said. We would have known. The lawyers would have told us. The lawyers did tell you, I said. It's in the estate documents. Page 47, Section 12B. The Blackwood Family Trust was established with 91% of company shares, to be managed by Ryan Blackwood upon his 25th birthday, with full voting rights and control. I pulled up the document on my laptop and turned it toward the room. Several people leaned in to read. I don't understand, Martin said slowly. Why would Dad do that? Because he knew Uncle Gerald would do exactly this, I said simply. Grandpa spent 60 years building a manufacturing company that employed hundreds of people. He knew Gerald would want to pivot into sexier industries the moment he got control. So he made sure Gerald would never have control. This is a coup, Uncle Gerald's face had gone red. You're staging a hostile takeover of the family company. It's not a takeover, I corrected. It's been my company for 8 years. Since I turned 25. You've just been operating under the assumption that the 9% you collectively hold was the majority. It never was. The CFO, Marcus Chin, a man who'd worked for Blackwood Industries for 20 years, stood up slowly. Mr. Ryan is correct. The share registry shows the Blackwood Family Trust is holding 91% of company stock. I've been sending quarterly reports to the trust for 8 years. I get those reports, I confirmed. I read every one. That's how I knew Uncle Gerald was planning this restructuring. You've been telegraphing it for 6 months, Uncle Gerald. The consultants you hired, the Tech Venture Solutions acquisition rumors, the manufacturing division, efficiency reviews that were really just layoff preparations. If you knew, why didn't you say something? Patricia asked. Because I wanted to see if Uncle Gerald would actually try it, I said. I wanted to see if he'd really try to dismantle everything Grandpa built, fire 300 employees, and bet the company on a leveraged acquisition in an industry he doesn't understand. Tech Venture Solutions is a growth opportunity, Uncle Gerald protested, but his voice had lost its confidence. Tech Venture Solutions is a bubble company with unsustainable burn rates and no path to profitability, I said. I had my analysts review their financials. They're losing $40 million a year with declining user growth. You want to pay $280 million for 60% of a company that will be bankrupt in 18 months. Your analysts, Uncle Gerald said with contempt. What analysts? Ryan, you travel around working on your laptop. You don't have analysts. I own Meridian Strategic Advisors, I said. We provide corporate strategy consulting to mid-size companies. We have 47 employees across 3 offices. I founded it 6 years ago and we generate about $18 million in annual revenue. When I'm traveling and working on my laptop, I'm visiting clients and managing projects. The room was completely silent now. But you never said anything, Martin stammered. At family dinners at holidays. You just sat quietly while we talked about business. I listened, I said. I learned what you all thought about the company, about strategy, about the employees. And what I learned was that Uncle Gerald wanted to cash out. He wanted to convert 60 years of manufacturing legacy into a quick tech acquisition that would make him look visionary. He didn't care about the 347 people who depend on this company for their livelihoods. That's not fair, Uncle Gerald said. I care about the company. I'm trying to ensure its survival. By firing 300 people and betting everything on a company you haven't properly vetted? I asked. Uncle Gerald, did you read Tech Venture's actual financial statements? Or just their pitch deck? He didn't answer. I read their financials, I said. Every line item, every footnote, every risk disclosure. Their revenue is declining. Their customer acquisition costs are skyrocketing. Their largest clients are reducing their contracts. They have 18 months of runway at current burn rates, and no realistic path to break even. You want to pay $280 million for that? The consultant said. Uncle Gerald started. The consultants get paid whether the acquisition succeeds or fails, I interrupted. They have no skin in the game. I do. I own 91% of this company. If you destroy it with a bad acquisition, I lose everything. So yes, I pay attention. Marcus Chin was reviewing documents on his tablet. Mr. Ryan, as the controlling shareholder and trustee of the Blackwood Family Trust, you have the authority to veto any major corporate actions, including this proposed restructuring. I know, I said. So you veto it? Marcus asked. I veto the acquisition and the financing, I said. But not the manufacturing sale. That can proceed if Uncle Gerald can find a buyer who will maintain employment levels and keep operations local. That's impossible, Uncle Gerald protested. No buyer will pay $340 million and commit to keeping all the employees. Then we don't sell, I said simply. We keep manufacturing, we keep the 347 employees, and we continue operating the business Grandpa built. The margins are shrinking. Uncle Gerald said desperately. We're facing foreign competition, rising costs, margin compression. We're facing a 12% profit margin on $280 million in annual revenue, I corrected. That's $33.6 million in annual profit. For a manufacturing company, that's excellent. You're not trying to save the company, Uncle Gerald. You're trying to get rich quickly. How dare you? The numbers don't lie, I said. Manufacturing is stable and profitable. Tech Venture is a disaster waiting to happen. If you want to diversify, we can do it slowly and carefully. But we're not betting the company on a leveraged acquisition that will probably fail. Patricia looked stricken. Ryan, I voted for Gerald's plan. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. You voted for it because you trusted him, I said. That's natural. He's your brother. He's been in business for 30 years. But trust doesn't override due diligence. What happens now? Martin asked quietly. Now we operate the company properly, I said. Marcus, I want a full strategic review of operations. Not from external consultants, from our own management team. I want to understand where we can improve margins, where we can invest in equipment or training, where we can grow organically. Yes, sir, Marcus said, and I could see relief in his expression. Uncle Gerald, I turned to him, you're welcome to stay involved in the business. But you're not CEO. You never were. Grandpa left that position intentionally unfilled because he didn't trust you with it. Then who is CEO? Uncle Gerald demanded. For now, Marcus will serve as interim CEO while we search for the right person, I said. Someone who understands manufacturing, values employees, and makes decisions based on analysis rather than ego. You can't do this, Uncle Gerald said, but his voice lacked conviction. I already have, I said. Marcus, please record in the meeting minutes that the controlling shareholder, the Blackwood Family Trust, vetoes the proposed restructuring. The motion fails. Recorded, Marcus said, typing quickly. Furthermore, I continued, I'm calling a special meeting of the board for 2 weeks from today. At that meeting, we'll discuss proper governance structures, transparent communication with all shareholders, and strategic planning that actually serves the company's long-term interests. You're staging a takeover, Uncle Gerald repeated. It's not a takeover when you already own the company, I said. It's called exercising ownership rights. Something I should have done years ago, but I wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt. I thought maybe you'd grown, matured, learned to value the company for what it is. Instead, you tried to dismantle it. I was trying to save it. Uncle Gerald shouted. By destroying it first? I asked. Uncle Gerald, manufacturing margins might be shrinking, but they're still profitable. You know what has zero margin? A bankrupt tech acquisition that burns through all our capital in 18 months. You don't know that tech venture will fail, he protested. Neither do you know it will succeed, I countered. But I've done the analysis, read the financials, talked to industry experts. The odds of failure are approximately 75%. Would you bet $280 million of the company's capital on a 25% chance of success? He didn't answer. I wouldn't, I said. And since I control 91% of the company, my vote is the one that matters. I stood, gathering my laptop. Marcus, send me the strategic review parameters by end of week. I'll review and provide feedback. Patricia, Martin, we should have dinner soon. Away from the office. We need to rebuild family trust that this meeting has damaged. Where are you going? Patricia asked. I have a client meeting in Boston tomorrow, I said. Meridian Strategic is consulting on a manufacturing optimization project. Should be relevant to our own operations, actually. You're just leaving? Uncle Gerald asked incredulously. The emergency is over, I said. You called this meeting to push through a destructive acquisition. I vetoed it. Now we return to normal operations while Marcus conducts the strategic review. What else is there to discuss? Everything. Uncle Gerald gestured wildly. You can't just drop a bomb like this and walk away. I didn't drop a bomb, I said. I exercised my voting rights as controlling shareholder. Something I've had the right to do for 8 years. You're the one who's surprised because you never bothered to actually read the estate documents. We trusted the lawyers, Martin said weakly. The lawyers did their job, I said. They distributed shares according to Grandpa's wishes. They established the trust properly. They filed all the paperwork. What they couldn't do was force you to read it. I moved toward the door, then paused. One more thing. The 347 manufacturing employees, they're not disposable assets. They're people with families and mortgages and lives built around this company. Grandpa understood that. He built Blackwood Industries on the principle that a company's first responsibility is to its people. That's why he left control to me, because he knew I understood that too. How would he know that? Uncle Gerald challenged. You were 25 when he died. Barely out of college. What did you know about running a company? More than you think, I said. I spent every summer of college working in the manufacturing plant. Different position each summer. Line work, quality control, logistics, scheduling. I ate lunch with the workers, learned their names, understood their jobs. Grandpa said if I was going to own the company someday, I needed to understand it from the ground up. He was grooming you, Patricia said with sudden understanding. Even back then. He was teaching me, I corrected. Teaching me that companies aren't just assets on a balance sheet. They're communities. And you don't destroy communities for a 25% chance at higher returns. I left the conference room and walked toward the elevator. Behind me, I could hear the chaos of shocked conversations, raised voices, confusion. Marcus caught up with me at the elevator. Mr. Ryan, thank you. If you hadn't intervened, 300 people would have lost their jobs. It's just Ryan, I said. And I wasn't intervening. I was protecting an asset I own. There's a difference. Still, Marcus said. They would have suffered. Their families would have suffered. I know, I said quietly. That's why I couldn't let it happen. The elevator arrived. As the doors closed, I saw Uncle Gerald emerge from the conference room, his face red with anger and humiliation. Good, I thought. He needed to feel that. Needed to understand that consequences exist. Needed to learn that being loud and confident doesn't make you right. The next 2 weeks were chaotic. Uncle Gerald tried to rally family members against me, claiming I was too young, too inexperienced, too disconnected from the business to be trusted with control. He travels constantly, Uncle Gerald told anyone who would listen. Works on his laptop from coffee shops. He's not a real businessman. He's going to run Blackwood Industries into the ground. But the numbers didn't support his narrative. When Marcus completed the strategic review, it showed that manufacturing was stable, profitable, and actually positioned to grow if we invested in modern equipment and expanded our product line. More importantly, when extended family members started actually reading the estate documents, finally, they realized that Grandpa David had been explicit about his reasoning. I found the key passage and emailed it to everyone. I leave controlling interest in Blackwood Industries to my grandson Ryan because he understands what I've spent 60 years trying to teach this family. That a company's worth is measured not in its stock price or its acquisition potential, but in the lives it sustains and the community it serves. Gerald will want to sell. Patricia will want to play it safe. Martin will want to expand too quickly. But Ryan understands that slow, steady growth that protects employees is worth more than risky ventures that might make us rich or might destroy everything we've built. After that email circulated, the family opposition quieted. Not everyone agreed with Grandpa's decision, but they couldn't argue with his explicit wishes. I had dinner with Patricia and Martin 2 weeks after the emergency meeting as promised. "I'm sorry," Patricia said immediately. "Ryan, I should have questioned Gerald more closely. Should have asked for the actual financial analysis instead of trusting his presentation." "You trusted your brother," I said. "That's not wrong. But trust should be accompanied by verification, especially when 300 jobs are at stake." "Why didn't you tell us?" Martin asked. "About the trust, about your ownership. We could have been working together all these years." "Could we?" I asked. "Martin, at last year's Christmas dinner, you mocked my laptop lifestyle and said I needed to get a real job. Patricia, you told your friends I was the struggling consultant in the family. Uncle Gerald has called me inexperienced, disconnected, and naive at various family gatherings for 8 years. Would you really have worked with me?" They were silent. "I kept quiet because I wanted to see who you all really were," I said. "What you really valued. Whether you cared about the company or just the money it could generate. Grandpa gave me time. He said the trust wouldn't fully vest until I was 30, so I had 5 years to watch and learn before I needed to act." "And what did you learn?" Patricia asked. "That Uncle Gerald is greedy, you're risk-averse, and Martin is impulsive," I said bluntly. "But also that you all care about the family, even if you don't always understand what's best for it. That's why I'm not cutting you out. You'll remain shareholders. You'll receive dividends. You'll be consulted on major decisions. But the final authority rests with the trust. With me, because that's how Grandpa designed it." "And Meridian Strategic Advisors?" Martin asked. "That's really your company?" "Really mine," I confirmed. "Founded it 6 years ago with $100,000 I saved from working in the plant during college. Grew it to 47 employees and $18 million in revenue. We specialize in helping mid-size manufacturers optimize operations." Seemed relevant to my eventual role at Blackwood. "You've been preparing for this your entire adult life," Patricia said with something like awe. "Grandpa told me at 20 that I'd eventually control the company," I said. "He gave me a roadmap. Work in the plant to understand operations, start my own business to understand entrepreneurship, build expertise in manufacturing optimization to understand the industry. I followed the roadmap." "What about Uncle Gerald?" Martin asked. "What happens to him?" "That's up to him," I said. "He can stay involved in a reduced capacity, consulting on business development or strategy. But he's not making unilateral decisions anymore. Not after trying to push through a $280 million acquisition he hadn't properly vetted." "He's humiliated," Patricia said. "The whole family knows he tried to override you and failed." "He humiliated himself," I corrected. "I just declined to be complicit in a bad decision." Marcus's strategic review was completed 4 weeks after the emergency meeting. His recommendations were practical and achievable. Invest $12 million in modern manufacturing equipment to improve efficiency by 18%. Expand the product line into adjacent markets with existing machinery. Increase quality control standards to reduce defects by 40%. Implement employee training programs to improve skills and reduce turnover. Establish a modest R&D budget to develop proprietary processes. Total investment, $18 million. Expected return, $8 million in additional annual profit within 3 years. No debt required. No employees fired. No risky acquisitions. I approved all recommendations. Uncle Gerald attended the board meeting where we discussed the strategic review, but he sat in the back and said nothing. His earlier confidence had evaporated, replaced by barely concealed resentment. After the meeting, he approached me in the parking lot. "You made me look like a fool," he said. You made yourself look like a fool, I corrected. I just prevented you from destroying the company in the process. Tech Venture Solutions is going to be huge, Uncle Gerald insisted. In 5 years, you'll regret not acquiring them. In 5 years they'll probably be bankrupt, I said. But if I'm wrong, I'll acknowledge it. Will you acknowledge if I'm right? He didn't answer. Uncle Gerald, I don't enjoy this conflict, I said. I'd rather work together. But that requires you accepting reality, that I control this company, that my decisions are final, and that I'm not going to rubber stamp risky acquisitions just because you're enthusiastic about them. You're 33 years old, Uncle Gerald said. What do you know about running a company? More than you'd expect, I said. I've been CEO of Meridian Strategic for 6 years. I've consulted on manufacturing operations for dozens of companies. I've read everything I can about the industry. And most importantly, I actually care about Blackwood's employees, not just its potential acquisition value. Caring doesn't make money, Uncle Gerald said. It makes sustainable money, I corrected. The kind that lasts. The kind Grandpa built over 60 years. You wanted to convert that into a quick score and hope it worked out. That's not strategy, that's gambling. Uncle Gerald walked to his car without responding. 6 months later, Tech Venture Solutions announced it was shutting down operations after burning through its remaining capital. The company that Uncle Gerald wanted to pay $280 million for became worthless. I forwarded the news article to him without comment. He replied 3 hours later. You were right. I was wrong. I'm sorry. It wasn't much, but it was something. Meanwhile, Blackwood Industries was thriving. The new equipment had been installed and was already improving efficiency. The expanded product line was generating $2 million in new revenue. Employee morale had improved dramatically once word spread that the layoff threat was gone. Marcus approached me after the quarterly board meeting. Ryan, the board wants to formally offer you the CEO position. You've been making the decisions anyway. Might as well make it official. I'm already CEO of Meridian Strategic, I said. I don't need another title. Then let me be CEO and you be chairman, Marcus suggested. But either way, we need you more involved. More visible. The employees want to know who saved their jobs. The employees don't need to know, I said. They just need to know their jobs are secure and the company is stable. That's not how leadership works, Marcus said gently. People need to see who's steering the ship. You can't hide in the background forever. I'm not hiding, I said. I'm just not seeking attention. There's a difference between seeking attention and accepting responsibility, Marcus said. You own 91% of this company. You make the final decisions. You determine the strategy. That's leadership, Ryan. Own it. I thought about that. About Grandpa David, who'd been a visible, active presence in the company until the day he died. About how the employees had respected him because he knew their names, understood their work, made decisions that protected them. Okay, I said finally. I'll be chairman. You're CEO with full operational authority. But we meet weekly to align on strategy, and major decisions still come to me for final approval. Deal, Marcus said, extending his hand. We shook on it. The announcement went out the following week. Ryan Blackwood, age 33, was named chairman of the board of Blackwood Industries. Marcus Chin was promoted from CFO to CEO. The press release included a quote from me. Blackwood Industries has been family-owned for 60 years because we value stability over flash, employees over equity, and sustainable growth over risky ventures. That tradition continues. Uncle Gerald saw the press release and called me. Chairman at 33, he said. Must feel good. It feels like responsibility, I said. Which is less fun than you'd think. I've been thinking about what you said, Uncle Gerald continued. About caring about employees, about sustainable growth. I thought you were just being naive. Turns out you were right and I was wrong. We were both right, I said. You were right that the company needs to evolve. I was right about how to evolve responsibly. Maybe we can combine those insights going forward. You'd still work with me? Uncle Gerald sounded surprised. After I tried to override you? Your family, I said. And despite your flaws, you have good instincts about market opportunities. You just need someone to reality check your enthusiasm. That's what the board is for. I appreciate that, Uncle Gerald said quietly. And Ryan, your grandfather chose well. You're exactly the kind of leader this company needs. Thanks, Uncle Gerald, I said. That means a lot. 2 years later, Blackwood Industries was stronger than ever. Revenue had grown to $312 million. Profit margins had increased to 15%. Employee retention was at 94%, one of the highest in the industry. Uncle Gerald had found his niche in business development, where his enthusiasm and connections were valuable but his decisions were checked by analysis and oversight. Patricia had taken an active role in human resources, where her cautious nature and desire to protect people served the company well. Martin had become head of R&D, where his impulsiveness translated into creative problem-solving. And I split my time between Meridian Strategic and Blackwood Industries, using lessons from one to inform the other. At the annual family dinner, Uncle Gerald raised his glass. To Ryan, who had the wisdom to see what the rest of us missed. And to David Blackwood, who knew his grandson would grow into the leader this company needed. To Grandpa David, I said, raising my own glass. Who taught me that real success isn't measured in acquisition deals or stock prices. It's measured in stable jobs, strong communities, and companies that last. We drank to that. And I thought about how close it had come, how close Uncle Gerald had come to destroying 60 years of legacy with one bad acquisition. How a 3% vote had turned into a 91% veto. How assumptions about the traveling laptop kid had nearly cost 300 people their jobs. How careful, patient preparation had made all the difference. Grandpa David had been right. The small vote did matter. It mattered because it wasn't actually small. It was just quiet. And sometimes quiet power is the most effective kind. The kind that waits, watches, and acts at precisely the right moment. The kind that saves companies instead of destroying them. The kind that protects 347 families from a bad decision made by people who should have known better. Uncle Gerald had learned that lesson the hard way. But he'd learned it. And that was worth something.